Hello, everyone. We're back again after another win. Um, s- Seventh game of the season, sixth win of the season. Football's back. Obviously, football wasn't here last week because of what happened with the Queen and stuff. But we're back 3-0. Nice to get another clean sheet because we were getting a lot of 2-1s. But how you doing, George?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm just gonna be, for once, a little bit thankful for everybody. Thanks so much for all the messages I received over the weekend. I really appreciate it. Seriously, with me and my family, really quickly, everything's all good. My dad's all stable, which is, thank God. He's kind of out of the woods right now. So thank you so much for all of the outpouring of the messages. It was really humbling. Thank you. But in terms of the game, man, it was crazy. Look, I'm so happy that the timeline was excited about it. I think we were talking off air. When I had to see this, maybe it's because of the emotion of it. I felt that we had an excellent performance. Don't get me wrong, but I did feel as though that this was coming. It was probably inevitable, but I feel that maybe the control that we felt in the moment was just maybe a matter of the opponent and the narrative of what we happened, I think, last year. Because I think for me, we've done this performance with other teams before, in terms of limiting them to basically zero shots. We've been doing that really well all game. It's probably one of the best um, things that we've done all season in terms of what we can limit the opposition to, the danger that they possess, right? Like, I have no problem with giving teams possession. I have no problem giving teams territory. It matters where that territory is. And I think that we've done really, really well. There was like a really cool graph that I had found kind of on Twitter that I made a post about that basically mapped out something called field tilt, which is essentially the number of passes or touches that you receive in the final third. And it kind of is a measure of how potent your attack is going to be in that final third. And then it measured that kind of on the bottom. And then up top, there was non-penalty expected goals. And that's basically your output. And it showed that we had probably the best improvement, and we were the second best team in the league, clearly. And I think for once, and we were kind of talking about this off air, Chris, was I think there was a certain inevitability. I was never worried that we wouldn't score or we wouldn't be um, vertical against this team. And I think that was the type of Man City vibes I was starting to get from the team, where before I felt that this team needed to be perfect in their final action, needed to be perfect in how they attempted every attacking pattern to maximize the goals. And I just felt as though we were just very confident in our ability to carve out chances, and there was nothing rushed. There was a lot of patience in our buildup. Um, but I think something really important was, Granit Xhaka, his captain return. Ethan Nwaneri. We'll talk about the historical relevance of that because we've been talking about that on BoP and the youth prospects. So if you guys watched that, you guys would have known Nwaneri even before he made his debut. But it's kind of it's incredible, I think, what we did. And I think, Mikel is very smart when he's talking about the press conference, him having a gut. There was a lot planned with that. I think the injury to Martin Odegaard opened something that was like very easy for the club to maximize momentum. And I think that's important, by the way. Like, I'm not one for narratives, but I will say what we did was very smart in terms of what it offers and shows to the Premier League, but also talents just in general. It shows that you will not only get a chance, but you will succeed in the first team. And that's something that the best academies in the world, no matter how great that they've been, haven't been able to do. You look at Cobham, you look at La Masia, you look at all of these top academy clubs. I believe that Arsenal have given, and I have to find a stat to probably prove it, but I think Arsenal have given the most debuts, at least in the last 5 years, to players under the age of 19 or 20. And it's kind of incredible. It probably speaks to what position we were in, by the way, that we had to rely on youth like that. But still, the fact that there's proven examples um, all throughout our pathway, and it's not just Bakayo, it's not just Emil Smith Rowe. Um, this Ethan Winieri inclusion means people like Miles, people like Charles Sajo Jr., those guys that are top talents in their own right. Amario, for example. Um, you know, it, all of those talents that are top, okay, in their own position that might believe, like, Amari felt that he had to leave Pale End to really proceed into his career, that Arsenal is the best club to not even just give you a chance, but to make sure that you have a professional career. So, Yeah, it's really good, but I can't wait to talk about the game because there were some excellent moments. Landmark performances from Granit Xhaka. By the way, we're gonna have to have a segment on him. It's been his best season for me in an Arsenal shirt. This one, not because it's something that we don't know he can't do, but because he's finally proving it with consistency, and it's being recognized by the masses right now. He's got an incredible amount of goals and assists, and then Saka after my little Twitter fight, if anybody saw, with someone certainly famous, but you know, for the wrong reasons, let's say, Saka's poor season of what, 5 goals and assists and 7 starts. Hey, if he's gonna have a poor season with those kind of metrics, give it to me all day long. So, and he was okay last game, but Ben White overlapping with a lot more consistency, something I was told we don't do. Crazy lunacy. But Ben White, we'll have a talk about him because I was also somebody that kept insisting that he would be an inverted right back from the moment that he was
But
signed.
we spoke about him. Obviously, you said it a lot on Twitter, but we spoke about the prospect of him playing right back DM because he's done it his whole career throughout the football leagues. Like
Hmm.
when we bought him the season before, I'll say 80% of the season was played for him at right back because Lamptey was injured and he filled in at right wing back the whole season. And well, people were very quick to doubt the fact that he could play right back, could play it well. Even after seeing 4 or 5 games with him this season, people still couldn't say he couldn't overlap. We need Tommy back. Da, 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 da. But he's performed well. He's gone against the doubters. Another player, Tierney, um, performed very well yesterday. People said he couldn't do anything if he was to be moved central. It took some time. Like he's different playing inverted left back from last year at the start to now. But players deserve time to change. But I think um, uh, I don't think George disagrees too much on that. But we're gonna get into it more. First, let's talk about the lineups then, because you did touch on Erdegaard not being here.
Hmm.
Uh, Erdegaard wasn't here. Um, Smith Rowe wasn't here. What did you make of the lineup? Because it seemed like Party came back obviously fit, so he was guaranteed to start, and then everything else pretty much didn't change, and Vieira got his start. So, what did
Hmm.
you make of our lineup?
I mean, not surprised when I guess we found out earlier from kickoff that he wasn't ready, Odegaard, right? So for me, it was simple. Like Vieira is the natural replacement. He was always going to be. He was bought for this reason. And with Emil Smith Rowe's injury out, there wasn't any, I guess in terms of what we could do. The one thing I will say is like, here comes the Odegaard agenda. But it was it was something where I was like, this is probably a good thing in disguise, particularly with this type of team. I think I looked at it lineup wise, Brentford away, in terms of what they are. Thomas Frank, I rate really, really highly, by the way. I think it's somebody that, for at least does kind of a similar style to us. If I had to really go down the league, who has potential to really do something like how we do in mid-table clubs, I think that really falls on Thomas Frank and Brentford, who I've been a big fan of their club, very modern culture for a while. But there's somebody that win duels, right? Like I think the biggest thing that going into the game, and I couldn't, quite make the preview, was I was worried about the fact could we be consistent in not just recruiting our second balls, but making sure that we were going to be aggressive in the challenge, but in the press as well. That's been our secret sauce. Like when you start looking at what's been the best aspects of our performance this season, it's been how aggressive the high line has been, which has been extremely aggressive, helped by William Saliba, by the way, who had an excellent game, of course. But I think that back line has been so impenetrable in the back, but also from the front. The way that Gabriel Jesus presses from the front, but also all of our front players, it's just a lot more coordinated. I've always felt like last season there was just one or two great subjects that were doing the press, but it wasn't as coordinated. It wasn't as consistent in terms of how many people helped out their mate with a second shadow cover, for example. And of course, Gabriel Jesus, we'll talk about it in the second half, operated much more as a kind of a left winger. We were just talking off screen about how he really did shift out wide because he noticed the space there, and I think that intuition, is really the next step. I don't know if you caught this, Chris, but just right after the first goal, on my stream, it showed Gabriel Jesus and Granit Xhaka trying to refocus everybody after William Saliba's goal,
Mm.
and I love that. Like that is just things where we just didn't have in the last 5 years. Our experienced heads have just not provided the impact on the field that I think we're seeing from some of the new experienced recruits, and I think that's huge, right?
It's
And
a lot more like composure, like
yeah,
because last season and something that Leicester struggle with now. after they score, they concede immediately. Like even us, when we conceded last season, straight away, like the 5 minutes after we concede, it's either perfection or like awful. There was no in between for us. It was either we continue perfectly or we just start conceding. Like,
Yeah.
and it's something that Leicester struggle with, and it's something that's been different for us. Like versus Fulham, versus Leicester, when they scored, sorry, we scored back so quickly. But I think that's the composure those players added, and the older heads have all performed very well this season. Partey, Xhaka, Jesus. They're really the older heads because everyone else is the younger ones. But they have performed very well this season. What did you make of? Because Brentford's lineup wasn't really changed, and we spoke about Mbeumo's new role this season.
Maybe
Obviously,
I can add a little bit of hatred on that because like me and
his
you, we've talked about it off.
touchdown right wing is not for him, man. It
No,
really is.
no, and I think the worst part of it all too, Chris, is that I think Ivan Toney gets isolated because of this, and so Ivan Toney's somebody that we know, um, he's gonna drop in and he's gonna want to play that Harry Kane role to an aspect, but he's somebody that I always find when he does drop to try to link play, he has a preference towards the left-hand side of the pitch, and I think if you're gonna maximize at least Brentford's potency right there, I would have preferred, to kinda switch the roles, have a touchline winger of somebody else, get Mbuemo closer to Ivan Toney, and at least make those out to in runs closer to somebody that's going to make a pass for you. Because right now, him and Ivan Toney have distances that are far too large for them. It's nice to see, Josh Da Silva, like another little ex Arsenal lad, doing well. I'm always going to say, like, I love that boy. And I just think that Aaron Hickey had a good game, though, personally, for Brentford. I think he did well, or as well as he could, with everything that was going on down that side. Um, but I think in general, when I had a look at the Brentford lineup, it was just more of a case of okay, I hope that we take our chances because right now they're gonna do well in terms of trying to control the middle of the park. They're gonna do well in their own press. And David Raya, I think, was going to be really important with those long clip balls out wide really quickly to see if he could
Yeah,
maximize us and our press because both of us are kind of teams that will look to press you high, and we do use our goalkeepers. Aaron Ramsdale for us, of course. But those long clip balls out wide destroy presses. They destroy kind of organization off the ball because it gets you up the pitch in a very vertical fashion. And if you can have players that are able to get it under control really quick and you can start to build quickly, you basically negate this top pressure on the back line. And so I think David Raya and making sure that we were able to control his outlets and not him was really important. And that was something I think that we did really well, kind of off the ball. It wasn't so much not just the aggression in duels that we were seeing with the team, but I think we were marking players very, very smart. We were forcing people touchline quite a lot that didn't want to be touchline. And then once we received possession of the ball, I think Thomas Partey was excellent in the match. I know there's a lot of narrative stuff about off the field stuff with him, but this was one of the first games I felt like, wow, technically that's somebody that is fit. Like I was seeing a lot of things. He was a lot more fluid in this match. He was doing things, by the way, taking on two or three players, and just turning with, an incredible radius. Like he was having fun in this match,
yeah.
I think there was at times that he was maybe forcing the pass, but look, no, guys,
That's
for
what
me,
he does.
that's what he does. Like that's what we need too, by the way. Like I don't think it's not coincidence, that we basically have one of our most controlled performances from people that, I don't know, people comment that he's maybe the most uncontrolled or the most vertical passer in the squad. That's not a bad thing. You do need that. Can he make better decisions about when he's doing that in isolation? Sure. But I think that's nitpicking because it's really the secret sauce that gets us up the pitch quick. And I do think we'll probably show screenshots later on, but I think Tierney, Martinelli, Saka, we're coming a lot more central this game and offering us options between the line. I think we had more players willing to receive right now, and that I think is a confidence of the way the team's playing. Right, like
Well,
the team's
it's the
playing well.
rotations, like the rotations to allow, like Vieira was so comfortable touchline,
Hmm.
Jesus comfortable touchline, Xhaka, Tierney, Saka, all of them are comfortable touchline. All of them are comfortable inverted. So whenever they rotate, it's very hard for a team to track them. Obviously, certain chances were created by Tierney in this on the penalty spot. Like they were very good at moving about, and they could have created a lot more goals. I do think. We didn't get enough good shots off. Despite having more shots than Brentford, we had like 10 more shots than them.
Hmm.
But we didn't have very good quality shots, I don't think, till maybe late in the second half. But we'll get into that later. Do you think, one thing before we get into this game fully, do you think Vieira, if Erdegaard's fit next game, will play?
So listen, with that, the North London Derby is a tactical game, um, for sure. Don't get me wrong, it is, but it's also an emotional game. I know, shocking analysis. And I think here, for me, you do have to play a player that's a little bit more tactically advanced. I said it originally that Fabio Vieira, for me, if we're talking as a football player, the difference between him and Martin, I think we see. Even in the bad games, you're going to get a Vieira who's going to be incredibly vertical and he's going to give you chances. He's going to give you opportunities to produce out. So, but does that mean that he should, keep his spot for one of the most emotional games in the calendar year? I don't know. Like, I would have Martin back. Tactically, it's at home. It's somebody that's played in a derby before. Like, I wouldn't mind Fabio Vieira coming on to experience a little bit later on, but I just think it's a little bit early to expect for him to go and deal with that environment. I don't think he'll work. He's not somebody that does that. But I do fear whether or not off the ball we can see that same consistency, because I do think that we're going to have to be a lot more aggressive man to man. And I don't think that Fabio Vieira is less suited to that role. He's actually better suited. I just don't think he understands it because he hasn't been a part of the team long enough to understand the triggers. I think individually he'll win more battles in the press 1v1, but
Yeah,
that's just naturally because he's better at it than Martin, not because he understands where he needs to be better than Martin. So I think right now, tactically, Martin Odegaard's a lot better than Fabio Vieira. And until we get that transition, and it was kind of hurt by his inability to be or to have a preseason rather. So that's really the biggest difference for me. I feel as though Martin Odegaard needs to be there just because he's experienced it. And I'm not one for narratives normally, but in this type of game, we need somebody with experience back there, but experience in the press. I wouldn't say experience in terms of forcing the issue. If we need a goal, Fabio Vieira is one of the first people I'm putting on the pitch. You know, he's somebody that will force the issue. If we need that for 20 minutes, no problem. But I think there's going to be periods in the North London Derby where you need to be on for 20 minutes and then off for 20 minutes. And I don't know if he understands that switch quite yet, at least for us. So, yeah, I would have Martin Odegaard starting this next game, and then we have a quick turnaround as well. It's not as though that Fabio Vieira is going to be lacking games. I mean, we're going to talk about it probably later in the pod, but like October's got what, 9 games? Is it?
yeah, 9 games for us.
Which is incredible. Like, it's crazy. So for me, it's not a big deal. Keeping these guys fit in rotation is going to be very important. So yeah, no, I'd have Martin back if he was available.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get into the first highlights of the game because it was in the first minute. So this started with good build up. To be fair, actually,
Mm,
good build up to come to this point. We had the ball at this point. It was 100% possession, but
mm,
we are just passing around. Here Vieira plays a nice pass to Gabriel, and for me, I was telling George before, but Gabriel really, obviously, it was good link up play between Martinelli and Xhaka, but Gabriel's aggression on the ball created a lot for us.
mhm.
And here Gabriel receives one touch, and straight away that one touch created a lot of space for him to go past Mbuemo's shadow, and he passed into Martinelli. Martinelli first time to Xhaka. I thought Xhaka would shoot, and
Yeah.
before I say what Martinelli does, but did you think Xhaka should shoot, or do you think he made the right decision?
Um, when you're in that position, Chris, I'm going to tell all my players to shoot, regardless if it's not on his strong foot, by the way. But Granite has really good ball striking. I do think that this was commitment to an attacking pattern. It was just mind,
Yeah, he made the decision
repetition.
before he got the ball.
Exactly. It was just automatism. He's like, no, I'm going to cut back because that's what I do in this position. I'm not somebody that finishes the move there. And I'm not asked to finish the move there. I think coaching wise, they all want them to attack the box at the penalty area. And so they just believe that that's a better location for finishing. And they'd be right. It
Yeah,
is
but
a better.
this is 2 games in a row where Xhaka is in that exact same position,
Yeah.
doing the exact same cutback. Because versus Zurich, he did the exact same thing and it was blocked. But this time, obviously, it wasn't. Martinelli receives the ball here, and I
Mhm.
think he's leaning over the ball a bit way too much. Slips, and it's an easy save.
Yeah,
But
it's poor. I mean, he has to go far post there, right? Like,
yeah,
well, not
I
far.
was seeing some crazy things said
Mhm.
towards him in the first minute. What did you make of this chance? Because I think it was a potential for a great goal wasted.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Like, we were talking off air, it was probably my favorite piece of attacking play in the entire game. Like, I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. You know, the one thing that I'll probably highlight, and I'll just really, quickly put this up, was this aspect, the Martinelli positioning. Now, I don't know if anybody noticed, but he let the ball run across him, and it was very Saka-esque,
Mm,
and I thought that is what made the move personally. I think Granite has been doing these off the ball runs amazing like all season. This isn't new. He's been incredible in that position. It's been his off the ball running. I think right now you just see the fact that he's free. But if you go back kind of a little bit, he's been marked really well, and he's being followed by Josh Da Silva, and that's where he starts his run. It's 1v1, they're level, okay, and then he ends up in this position, and that's because Shaka has had an intelligent run, making kind of that banana J run that we talk about here on the channel quite a bit with strikers, but he does it as a central midfielder, and it basically gets in behind Josh Da Silva, who's not following him, and Martinelli does a touch that I think is phenomenal, Chris. Like I didn't see that on the timeline
But
where.
the thing is about this touch is that you can see where he gets the centre back. If you go to the one before, you
Hmm,
can see the centre back was a bit off him, but him allowing it's something Saka, as you said, Saka does all the time. But when you allow the centre back to think they can receive the ball and then just easily touch it past him, is what will make this Xhaka run so effective.
yeah.
Because the silver here is attracted to the ball and lets Xhaka run, and
Hmm.
then the centre back is attracted to Martinelli so much so that he thinks he can get the ball, and it's just a great awareness to allow the one touch. Personally, I think obviously Xhaka should shoot. Well, he does pass because it's something they've really trained on. Because Gabriel did this exact same pass to the exact same player last game. So it's
Hmm.
clearly something that they continuously do in training. But I think it was a great chance, great build up wasted, and it's not the only time we did it in the game. But it was great movement and probably was the best piece of play that we did all night,
Yeah, no, it was incredible, and of course, you've got a center back that I thought
all afternoon actually.
isn't technical, but he's doing, some of the hardest skills, in the game here. Like this is very good awareness, right? Like Martinelli, that takes a lot of confidence too, Chris. By the way, like he's got to
Yeah,
shuttle that through three or four players. That's not an easy pass, by the way. I know it looks easy, but you have to be super aggressive to make that pass. And I think Martinelli, you know what he does and what Saka does really well is that he makes a motion that he's traveling towards the direction of the ball, and then he opens his body to
yeah,
open up the space, and that's the feint that sells it and makes the move. And I think Martinelli does that beautifully. But it's what makes the center backs believe that they can get there. By the way, because if you look over here, he's got his left foot and he's leading in the way of where the ball's going to travel towards him, and that's really, as a defender, you're like, okay, I can box them in. His body shape's all wrong. He's not open to receiving on the half turn. But Martinelli's just so quick, and so is Saka. By the way, the agility to just open your hips so quickly like that is what sells it. Because then he opens his body up like this. Center back clearly believes that he's going to get there, and then boom, he's out of the game. Shaka is open, and this is a beautiful piece of off the ball running. And then when you're in this position, yeah, uh, again, I would be a lot more critical if Shaka was somebody like a Martinelli in this position. Like everybody would be telling him to shoot, but personally, I think that regardless of player role. I'm asking my players to shoot in this position. But look, he does the cutback because in the end, Chris, that cutback also creates like an open goal here.
yeah. He should have at least made the keeper work. He'd even get good contact on the ball.
Absolutely. And so for me, like I'm not going to be too critical because look, granted, you didn't decide to shoot, so you made a decision that made another chance that was an open goal in a sense. And I
Mm.
would argue this is a better chance too, Chris. Like I'll be honest, like if you were going to
Yes,
be critical,
central of the goal.
yeah.
The massive gap between the centre. It's essentially, obviously, it's not really a 1v1, but
No,
it
it's
really
him 1v1 with the keeper, right?
yeah.
Because, yeah, there's no one in his line of sight. And look, yeah, he slips and we know what happens there. And,
Yeah,
should he do better? He should, for sure. I think his decision making has been clunky. We were talking about it off air, right, Chris? Like Martinelli's decision making since being wide has been a little bit clunky in the box. It's going to come back.
yeah.
It's nothing to be a worry. But yeah, it deserved this move. Again, best move of the night for me, and it deserved a goal.
So that was the first minute, and it boded well for what we were gonna do in next. But then we scored from a set piece, and now we have the most set piece goals in the league. But Saka corner, and I only picked this angle on purpose.
Yeah.
Saka corner, near post again, Saliba header. He beats who is that? Rico Henry. Rico
And
Henry
Ivan Toney
and
behind him.
Ivan Tony. Yeah, Rico Henry and Ivan Tony beats them, hits the post, and I wanted it to show it going over the line, but yeah. What did you make of this goal? Because it was a good set piece.
Yeah, no, it was excellent. But I'm just going to go back here, by the way, because let's just analyze these set pieces here. We'll add a little bit of tactical special sauce because I think everyone keeps praising Nicholas Yover, but I don't know if anybody's actually saying what he's doing. And, what I think is excellent is you've got our two most aggressive runners that he consistently puts up top in the penalties area, by the way. And I think here, this is a little couple seconds late, but, Partey was there. We always have three players that load the penalty spot, by the way. One goes and darts inside, hopefully to draw a marker. Brentford just don't pick him up, which I think is poor. Thomas Partey's open, by the way. So regardless of Saliba's near post run, which we've talked about here on the channel quite a bit here, Nicholas Jover constantly asks players to attack the front post, and I think it's because he's looking for a knock on into the mix zone. And look, Saliba does well to guide that on goal into the terms of the far post, but realistically, what he's asking his players to do consistently is to beat the front man and knock it into the mixer, and we're going to win the second ball in the box to create chaos. Some of the little tweaks, though, in terms of what we're asking players to do, is we'll always have three players load the penalty spot, and one person's going to attack front post, and the other one normally attacks back post. So I think Ben White is making his run here, by the way. I just want to focus you there. If you notice and you play that out, he peels into the back just in case that knockdown reaches him in the far post. And that, I think, is just really basic but excellent pieces of play. Like, this is the tactical pattern that we really do with a lot of our set pieces. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look at it because we load typically two or three players in the 6 yard box. Both of them go attack near post all the time. One person always is going to attack near post from the penalty spot, and another one's always going to attack back post. But then one's going to always stay, and that really is what keeps the defense guessing about who is going to be the one in charge of attacking the near or the far post. So those are the little tweaks there, and I think look, William Saliba does excellent to get contact on that because that's not an easy header by any means. But Gabriel's done that header so many times for us. It's
I thought he's the one that when I was in the moment, I thought he
yeah,
scored. Like I,
yeah,
I did not know who scored at all. And then obviously Saliba celebrated, but Saka another assist. And I think the delivery has been consistent, especially from him more so than
yeah.
like a Cedric or Martinelli. But I think his delivery has been very good from corners. Um, I'm not sure the number. I know we've scored a lot of corners this season though, but it's another form of goal that we said this was maybe a year ago, but it doesn't hurt to score from set pieces. Like it doesn't hurt to add
Mhm.
another dimension. Like Liverpool scored so many goals from set pieces when they won the league. It doesn't hurt to have so many different ways to score that. Even if you can't break down the defense, you can always trust that maybe we will score from a corner.
Yeah.
Um, and this did break the deadlock, and we should have scored from general play like we did later. But it is very good that you have Saliba now on 2 goals, Gabriel on 2 goals. Our centre backs are scoring goals this season. Same amount of goals as Salah, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And look, really quickly, I love that, Saliba actually got this because he's actually somebody that does struggle with his aerial ability. Despite the frame,
Mm.
people won't realize this, but he's been pretty good attacking the box, but more so defending the box. He does struggle with in swinging crosses in terms of dealing with them. But I love that he did this to one of the best aerial center forwards in the league. Ivan Toney's right behind him. Like that's no mean feat. He is somebody that wins his aerial duels consistently, and William Saliba gets the jump, but also he's so aggressive in attacking that front post. He leaves him no chance. And he just knows his job, he knows his role, and he executes it. And it kind of just spoke to the narrative of the match, Chris. Like it was so simple. It's something we've seen so many times before with Nicholas Jover as a pattern, by the way. And then it's boom, it's a goal, and no one is doubting it. Everyone's excited, but guys, this is work that's gone on the training pitch for so long. We've talked here on this channel about Nicholas Jover's propensity to attack the near post, and we've seen it before. This isn't new. I guess that was my big lesson of yesterday. Was I'm glad everyone was excited, but guys, we've been doing these patterns for a while. I'm glad everyone is finally catching up about how consistently we're performing them because, like you said, Chris, now the most potent set piece team in the league. But we've also had the most potent center back in the league. His name's Gabriel, and people have been hindering him for a while. So it's like it's not new, and we're adding this versatility to other players, and it's just incredible. So yeah, really, really, really good piece of play by us.
So at this point, 16th minute, 1-0. Then the next big chance is the second goal. The
Mm,
11 minutes later, 27th minute, Jesus scores. So I'll walk you through this goal as well. Tierney receives out wide, and he did receive out wide and inside a lot at times, but
mhm.
here you can see the same thing that we saw with the first chance with the numbers in the box. Obviously, here it's 3v4, but in the very first chance in the first minute, it was a 4v3 in the box. Here you can see it's a 4v3 in the box, and we did very well to create numbers in the box. But I'll continue. Tierney passes to Xhaka here. Xhaka, honestly, he receives here one touch and then
It's world class play.
puts it out of his feet, and it was a great header. The keeper couldn't do anything about it, but what an assist from Xhaka to make it 2-0.
It's world class. That's what that is, Chris. Like that is a world class left half space cross. And everyone just keeps saying like Chris, honestly, like he's now got his most productive season goals and assist wise already. Like we were saying it earlier in past reviews that he was already tied for his season best, but now with this assist, he's cleared it. And this is it was
Seven.
incredible. It just shows, I think, Chris, that here it's just all about the movement, right? It is all about the movement of Jesus, but this is about the pass first and foremost. Shaka gives Jesus a message about where he needs to be with the pass here. I don't think that we've had very many times that we've done this type of cross well enough from those spaces, by the way. That's one of the big reasons that I was really excited about Fabio Vieira. I think he's somebody that can do this cross on repeat, by the way, left or right. But Granite does excellent here, and Tierney. Let's not downplay that move. It wasn't anything special in terms of this passage of play, but he was somebody that was going in or outside very well all
Yeah.
game. It was somebody that deserves special mention because he was incredible. And I think there was a lot of hyperbole that was going on his name on the timeline about what he was and how poor he was technically and his understanding. And it was just
He has not had a bad game at all this season.
no. And he's been incredible defensively. And when people are saying he's been kind of iffy technically on the ball, he's been excellent in terms of where he needs to be. His positioning has been top, either defensively or offensively. He knows where to be. And so I'll never criticize someone's execution from, by the way, a huge injury. He's coming back from a massive injury. So that's no problem for me. But then let's put it back to Shaka because he deserves it. And, he got his name sung at the end of the game. And he was
He
very
was
happy
happy.
about that. Yeah, and look, man, I'm not emotional, but I love that so much. He got his captain's armband here, and I think it capped off a display that for me, we were talking off air. Who's your man of the match? Shaka was for me, and it wasn't just the assist. He was like this whole game. We talked about it in the earlier chance. His off the ball movement has been incredible. This half space cross was really direct, really potent, but guided too. It makes the goal, Chris. Like I think a striker is looking at this and said, yeah, if I don't score this, it's on me. Because this type of pass, it's a looped curved ball and it just tells Jesus where to be and where to head it. And look, he does well. Jesus does well to get it on target.
Yeah,
Um,
and
and
then he does his
you got to praise
celebration
that. Yeah.
as always. But that was pretty much it in the first half. After that, we didn't create anything big. We didn't create anything like any big shots. So what did you make of the first half? Because after that, we had pretty much three big chances that I think we would all say that we should have had three goals
Yeah.
from the big chances: the corner, the Jesus header, and the Martinelli chance. So we were 2-0 up where we should have been three. But what did you make of the first half? I'll run you through the stats. We had 64% possession, 7 shots to their 2, and 3 on target, and one big chance that was scored, 4 shots inside the box. What did you make of the first half?
uh, Dominant, controlled, and I was sitting there gleefully smiling that maybe my prediction would be right as I was rewatching. I knew the score in the end, but I'm just like, yeah, okay, calm
I,
down, shut up, shot. Uh, we'll go out of there with a 2-0, and I'll be able to make fun of Chris about it later on. But no, I thought that first half was really, really good in terms of just our intent, Chris. I think there was a lot of what we've seen, by the way, are patterns we've seen all season, but what we saw is just a clinical execution that it wasn't hurried, it wasn't rushed. I felt like for the first time, our possession was purposeful in that we were just patiently waiting for the gaps to open up. And I just felt like previously there's there's been a certain amount of fear in this team away from home and how we attack. And I think the patterns are all the same, but it's just our tempo play has been a little bit different. And this game, it kind of showed just through those passage of play. Again, ironically, I'm going to reference the first bit of play that we saw in the first minute. Um, Again, my favorite piece of play in the entire game, not just half, but entire game. And I think it spoke to um, each player in that move has been criticized for the things that he showed. And what I mean by that is Gabriel, his ability and aggression in possession to pass vertically between the lines. Boom, he showed it. Martinelli, his ability in tight spaces to make space for himself. Boom, he's done it. Granit Xhaka basically losing a marker with his dynamism. I'm going to repeat that. Xhaka losing his marker with his dynamism off the ball to basically open himself up into space. And then we'll speak less about Martinelli in terms of his finishing. But this is a team that it's getting cocky. It's really good. It's nice to see. And
Finally,
it's getting inevitable. And there's another level, by the way, that this team is going to go because I think it's a two stage of cocky where it's like, it's this friend that is cocky right now picking lineups. That's what this reminds me of. Or it reminds me of your boys when you're about to go to the club and be like, yeah, watch me where I'm going to go pull. And then now you actually pulling at the club is a very different story, and we're slowly getting there. But we're basically very confident in our ability to impose ourselves, no matter the opposition and no matter who we're facing. And I think that bodes really, really well in terms of demoralizing your opponent. So yeah, no, I love that first half. How about you?
I like the clinical edge so far because we've had the third most shots on target, where third most big chances created, third most goals, second most big chances missed. So there's still a level to go, as you said. Second most big chances missed after Man City. So we are wasting chances. We have been dominant. The first half was very dominant. The second half was dominant as well. 64% possession, 200 more, well, no, 100 more passes than Brentford. Like we dominated the first half very well. Would I have liked to see more chances? Yes. Do we still waste chances? Yeah, and something that Thomas Frank said is they're all a year older, plus Jesus, plus Zinchenko, so they were always going to get better this season. And not many people like noticed that despite not making as many changes as people wanted, everyone we had is a year older, and none of them are 30 yet. So I think this was a very good first half. But second half, 3 minutes in, and I was happy that your prediction was out of the window because I didn't think we concede, but I knew I needed another goal. And then obviously, if you don't know our predictions, I predicted 2-1, George 2-0, and Curran 3-1. I didn't think we concede, so I was confident Curran's one wasn't happening, but I needed another goal for George one not to happen. So let me walk you through the goal because it was another goal with good build-up play. And me and George were talking before, but every single goal we scored or every single chance we had came from good build-up play apart from one. But let me walk you through it because Saliba started here, and I wanted to highlight his confidence on the ball because we highlighted Gabriel's. But Saliba here, he invites Tony, he turns him very easily. You can see Tony's been turned by Saliba here. Saliba passes to Partey straight back, and Saliba straight away. This was good one-touch football to Vieira, and Vieira passes to Saka here. And here you can see the numbers, and George was talking about us really being in a 2-4-4, and it's very evident here.
Hmm.
And you can see who's on their back, as always, anytime Vieira received the ball. Ben White was very quick to overlap. And once Saka receives, Ben White allows Saka to go inside because he takes Rico Henry with him. Saka drives inside, assist, and then is this really an assist? He was given an assist, but one touch, bang, posting in, and then
All
acceleration. But what did you make of it? Well, pretty much this. What did you make of this? Because it was
right.
just an elite piece of play, really, from himself.
I don't. Okay, look. Is it an assist, Chris? You bet your ass it is an assist, and I'm going to claim that until the cows come home. But
Okay.
no, look, Fabio Vieira. This is what you get with him. You get his ability to shoot, and look, a lot of people are. they talk about these types of players as your Bruno, your Madisons, and whatnot, but this isn't Bruno or Madison. This isn't like that because it's it's somebody that's 30, 40 yards out that has one touch and bang, no build up, and it was a very short back lift. And this guy has guided it. And Martinelli has been talking about it in the post match interview where he was like, "Listen, why are you saying it was lucky? You've been doing this in training, basically,
Every day, yeah.
all the time." And like this is what he gives you. He's somebody that has incredible ball striking. He's got an incredible pace on a kind of a very short back lift too with it. He's and I think the decision to shoot Chris is not one that many of those players that people keep saying could do it in terms of De Bruyne, in terms of Madison, in terms of all these Bruno, in terms of all these players that say they'll shoot is in this position, not many people will shoot. It's a very tough ball, by the way. He's got to go through 3 or 4 players, but in his mind, there's one thing that he has to do, and he's got to slot it in. And it was controlled. But don't get me wrong, he's got very powerful ball striking if he wants. He made the decision to make it the R2 on the PlayStation controller. He made that decision. And it was just incredible. And I think the idea that you're going to be shooting or forcing the issue, that's an intent and aggression that we need to see. So I loved it from Fabio Vieira, and it's something that I've been screaming about on the channel that we're going to get from him, and I'm excited that we saw it here. One thing that I do want to say though, mate, is a lot earlier, and I want to talk about Ben White with it because I think that the Ben White overlapping thing, I've been fighting on Twitter in the Twitter wars about Ben White in terms of his position, his role. We talked about it earlier, but his ability to kind of want to overlap a little bit. And when you essentially receive the passage of play here, I just want to show where Ben White starts. And he's starting in his typical right center back position. And then when you see him slowly creeping up and he's making his way up the pitch, the decision when to overlap is something that I think he's been mastering the last couple games because not only has he done it quite often, but he's recognizing the perfect time to do it in terms of when the opposition are out. Because yeah, we were talking about that 2-4-4, Chris, and you can see it here very clearly. Gabriel is kind of in the back there. Of course, we kind of go from this position to Ben joining in at the top. We kind of make ourselves got a numerical superiority here versus Brentford, who have their own 4-4-2 press going. And then when Vieira receives in terms of this position, he's gone. Once Vieira has received here, Ben knows the space is in behind here. And regardless of Saka, which you can't really see right now, he's kind of off screen, he's touchline. Ben knows, okay, I've got to get going right now because when Vieira passes it to Saka, I have to be beyond him. I have to be beyond him at this point. And he makes up a ton of ground, Chris. This is like what, something like 40 or 50 yards to make that kind of run. It's incredibly unselfish. And it's when we were talking about Saka being isolated right wing. This is something that we weren't seeing in the earlier first 3 games. Like we
Yeah.
weren't seeing Ben or somebody offering him a position because right now Brentford are there with numbers, by the way. Look at them. Like they've crashed really quite well. Like this is not a clean chance by any stretch of the imagination. And if Ben doesn't make that run, we basically don't get Saka in this position, who again, by the way, is still surrounded by 3 players. Like Brentford defend this well. This is just a piece of phenomenal play because Vieira takes a touch here. He has no right to score. Brentford have numbers here, Chris. Like if you really look at
I
it,
know.
their back four is incredibly well spaced.
They've got
And then
8 players there.
okay, it's great. And then
They,
it's
they have,
shot.
yeah, and then the shot was elite, posting in, and honestly, Raya, there was nothing he could have done.
Mm,
This was probably the best first goal he could have wished for to highlight what he really is because he was not having a good game. Like he was not having a good debut, but this just took over the narrative of what his debut is. And Martinelli said it right. Stop calling it lucky. You do it every single day in training. You practice this every single day, and this is one piece of brilliance that we need. Like as I said earlier, you can't. Why would we complain if we have multiple more ways of scoring that? The corners, the free kicks.
mm.
Now we have someone who can actually take free kicks, but the corners, the free kicks, the long shots, like why would you complain where you found a different way you can score? Like from because he has no right to shoot from here. No one expected him to shoot from here. Like probably none of the players, probably the keeper wasn't really ready. He sees him about to shoot, so he starts crouching down, but no keeper in the world is saving that, posting in, and then he
Yeah.
celebrates.
And you know what, Chris, just really quickly, I'm going to keep this image really quickly here. This is my final rotation that I love, by the way. Ben White touchline, Kieran Tierney touchline, and our three most important goal scorers are in between the sticks. Like, this is what I like to see. Xhaka, by the way, is inside deep to control a transition just in case. And then, of course, Partey is very easy back there. He's in his lone pivot role there. But this is the final third rotation that I want to see. Our three most important goal scorers as close to goal as possible. Okay, Fabio Vieira does a screamer here, and it doesn't really matter. But I think I want to see us get into this position a little bit more often, by the way, when we do have possession of the final third, because I think it's going to be important when we don't and we are searching for that goal to get our players that are the most potent as close to goal and as frequent as possible to each other. So this is something that I just really like to see. And it showed Jesus the early signs of him creeping again to the left side. Like, it's something that he did all of the second half. So, yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about that. He was a lot more willing to just be touchline because there was a lot more space over there. Taney was dragging players inside. Xhaka was dragging players inside. So it allowed him to be touchline. And every single game he decided, I want to go on a mazy run. I want to go on a mazy run. And the next chance really was his mazy run. Partey passes here to Jesus. And again, Brentford are in a good block. But it was something we were speaking about earlier that despite their good block, we just continually passed around him. And it was a Man City-like execution in the sense that they face settled blocks a lot, and it's not really one piece of brilliance. They really pop around teams, and we did this versus Brentford, who are ninth in the league right now, but were seventh before, and have been very good this season, like especially at home. But let me walk you through this. Partey pass to Jesus. Xhaka dummies it, and wait, no, that's the wrong. Xhaka dummies it and lets Jesus receives. Jesus drives a bit, passes to Xhaka, and the way till now I don't know how Xhaka returns the ball, but as you can see, he's full stretch with his right foot. He takes the touch and flicks it through to Jesus, and when Jesus receives in the box, he touches it and shoots with his left foot, and is saved by Raya. But this was another great build-up play, another great shot, another great chance. This was less like, oh, how could you miss than Martinelli's one because of the angle and it's with his left foot. And the defender is literally right there. You can see the defender on him. What did you make of this chance? Because it really was created by Jesus and Xhaka.
I think a little bit more the latter, personally. I think Jesus's movement tells him where to run for sure. But like when you go back to kind of this position, it's incredible. It's incredible. Like it's a poor pass to him, by the way. To the
It really is because he's full stretch with his right foot.
Yeah, like it's a poor pass. He manages to get it under control, and then when he receives it, by the way, that Jesus. Sorry, I did the same thing as you, but that Jesus touch right after that, it's incredible. Like that slip ball is perfect. I think in this position, Chris, I wanted him to take a better touch too. I think the defender does well to recover, but it's here that I think the touch sets you up well. And I would want you to maybe cross back post to Saka. Like when you look at it here, this is what I would like to see in terms of the rotation. But I'm not going to criticize a striker for wanting to shoot in this position. But when you get here, my only thing is get that thing across the face of goal. Because again, look where Saka is, Chris. Like he's open. Like if you're making a decision at this point, I don't have an angle that's great. I've got two central defenders that are crashing in on me. I would set and cross against the face of goal here, right? And then it's an easy tap in for Bukayo Saka at this point because he's beaten his man. So that would probably be my only critique here. I think he made the wrong decision necessarily. But I think it's really nice play. Again, I'm not going to criticize too much. The only thing I would say is if you make a decision to shoot in this position, please go across the face of goal because he doesn't. He shoots it and maybe it's the execution, but I want you to at least test the keeper far post here. But again, I will emphasize it really should have been a pass. And I don't want to criticize him too much because Jesus had such a good game, but Bukayo is open and had been open from the break. So, but yeah, no, it was a good piece of play. And again, that man, Granit Xhaka, in the left half space, controlling things. It's why I think he's my man of the match. He did this more than just this time. We spoke about it all pod. It's like him in that half space is deadly. He will create at least 2 or 3 big chances per game, Chris. Do you know how mad that is for a player in that position who supposedly can't operate between the lines to do that and provide output? Come on, man. Like I don't know what else you need from him.
But I think like again another big chance that people would say we should have scored from, but Xhaka was so integral, good combination play. Like again, he had no right to. He took a touch with his right foot, then scooped it over the defender's right foot to Jesus to receive. It was a poor touch from Jesus, and he missed it. But Raya makes another save. I want to ask you from this point onwards because I feel like we
Mm.
did create chances after this, and we probably had more chances after this than before. But did you think we'd score after this? Like, did you think we'd like destroy Brentford the way they really did to Man United?
No, that's the one thing that I think that this team lacks, where they lack the ability to embarrass. And so what I mean by that is we're going to be very composed and excellent in terms of clinically outbeating our teams, no doubt. But I don't think we've got that Man City 6 or that Man United 6-2, for example, in us. I don't think we have, even the Manchester City. When was it? Was it last year or the year before when we got a man sent off and they just continue to kill us in terms.
4-0. That was it. The 4-0 where Balogun came on.
Exactly. Yes. And it's like that ability for a team to say, "Look, I'm gonna kill you, but then I'm gonna step on your throat to make sure you're dead." Like like that is something that I don't think this team quite has yet. And so, which is fine. Like it'll build it there. But no, I didn't. I felt that we would ride out the game at that 3-0. If they scored, I think maybe we would have pushed. We would have had substitutes, but the one thing I was looking for, Chris, at this moment in the game was to Mikel to be proactive in terms of the rotation, knowing what the schedule is going to be coming up, and he was. He was very good with the subs in terms of protecting people. Not that people had injuries, not that you need to worry about that, but just being proactive in terms of load management, knowing down the line we're going to have a very difficult schedule. So I just felt like he was very smart in terms of who he took off and when at this point.
Well, for me personally, yeah, I was like very sure we wouldn't score, and I was actually very sure we'd get a clean sheet. I think we
Mm,
killed any momentum for Brentford, who are probably one of the most potent teams in the counter, with the way Mbuemo scores and the way Mbuemo and like Tony very willing to shoot or pass. Like when you have that on the counter, they can kill teams. But I was very sure we wouldn't allow them space to transition. Obviously, there was even a time where they played the ball over the top and Gabriel and Saliba just dealt with Tony. And then I
mm.
was very sure we're not conceding at all. And then obviously after that, we didn't concede. I was happy. Curran's prediction was wrong. He stays on level points with me. But let me get into the next goal because no, next chance because it wasn't a goal. But it was a great save from Raya. Um, this starts with Vieira. No, from Party actually. No, Party. It starts from Party. I don't Party. So Party here passes to Vieira, and here I wanted to highlight the 2-3-5 and what we were talking about earlier about the rotations and where
Mm.
look where Tierney is, look where Martinelli is, look where Saka is. Saka's where Vieira would be in the 4-3-3 on paper. Martinelli's where Jesus would be, and Tierney's where Xhaka would be. And I
Mm.
think the rotations were very clear 2-3-5. Jesus and Vieira touchdown. What did you make of this, and what did you make of how comfortable we were not being where we are on paper?
So I think here, one thing that I'm going to highlight, I'm going to keep this photo up. Everybody, just have a look at where Bukayo Saka, Kieran Tierney, and Martinelli are in terms of our 2-3-5. Chris, you mentioned that, but also their press, right? They had a very good 4-4-2 press, Brentford. I mean, we were like, even though that we were passing around them, I think this is the reason why we had so many people showing ball to feet and coming willing to come deep. Typically, what you would see is maybe Jesus coming this deep only, trying to receive between. But here you look, Kieran Tierney is showing for the ball, by the way, in between two midfielders. He's asking for it with his hands there. And then Martinelli's doing the exact same thing. And look at Bukayo Saka, like it's in unison. All three are asking for the ball here, and they've come so deep. They've left the last line, and I think that's important because typically what we would see is people too static in the final third with that 2-3-5 where they would just stick on the back line. But no, all three of these guys on the inside channel have moved into midfield and said, "Here, hit me." And I think this is really important. This is how we beat the press because here, if you look at it, Chris, we've got three players in our middle third, which is Partey, Ben White, and Shaka back there against their front two, and then that's against their midfield three in this point of view here with Kieran Martinelli, and Saka. So against their five, we've got six constantly. So in each area of the pitch here, if you could throw like a blanket over top, there's a numerical superiority. And this is how we were able to pass around them, Chris, kind of when you were talking about before. They had really good distances, Brentford. It wasn't like they weren't compact. They were very good.
Yeah,
And
their block was very good, but that's why I said it was Man City esque.
yeah.
Because regardless of how good your block is, they're going to pass around you. Like eventually, they were going to fight. And you said it in the first, probably the first 5 minutes of this.
Mm,
It felt inevitable for the first time this season that obviously after that goal conceded, we knew we'd score, but it felt inevitable that we're not conceding today and we're just going to score as many as we want to.
yeah.
And after three, we did waste chances. We are second in the league for big chances missed, so we are wasting chances. But this again, and it's a different shape to the one
Hmm.
that came from the chance before. The one was a clear 2-4-4. Here's a clear 2-3-5, and players in so many different roles. And even as we progress up the pitch, and I walk you through it, um, the players pick up in some crazy, like Tierney picked up the ball in the box central, like they picked up in some crazy positions. But on that note, let me. And do you think answer that question before I walk you through the goal?
Um, there's maybe one or two players at the elite echelon of football that can do what Thomas Partey does. But again, this is why when I say he's too vertical, I think is a criticism that people are a little bit off with. This is incredible. Can somebody be as press resistant as he was, having fun the way that he was, taking out two or three players on the half turn? I don't know. There's not too many players that have his level of competency in tight spaces that can show that. I think there's a couple that can execute this kind of pass consistently, and not just this one, but how he does throughout the 90. But there's not many people that combine it with that technical skill in tight spaces, and also that classic pace and power. That total package. There's not many. It's rare. It's the rarest profile in football, and it's why we have to get a certain carbohydrate side dish next season because it's not
Wow,
something
you
that
really, you really wanted to put that in there.
yes.
That's with a certain carbohydrate. Anyways, let me walk you through the goal. Actually, I don't know how to that down, but party to Saka, and as you can see, Saka ready to receive, Tierney ready to receive, Martinelli. All they all have their hands in the same position,
That's
saying,
what I
"Hit
was
me,
telling you before. See, they
yeah,
all
hit
have them
me."
in the same position. They're all
Yeah,
asking. And look, Chris, it's funny, but I really think this was the difference in the game. Like all three of the inside channels of the front five are dropping a lot deeper, 5 to 10 yards in between the midfield to provide themselves for an option, and
mm,
they're comfortable. And how you were saying the rotations were crazy, they're confident right now. And yeah, all
yes.
three are pointing for the ball, and it's
But
excellent.
I think the good thing is he's willing to pass, and it's something that
Yeah.
people think he needs to change. But if he wasn't willing to pass, most people pass to Xhaka or White rather than evading the attacker and passing to Saka. But he does pass to Saka, who lets the ball run across his body, and he passes to Vieira. And here, the difference between where White is
Mm.
in 3 minutes or 3 seconds actually. In 3 seconds, the difference between where White is immense. But White is on his back as always, and once Vieira receives, 2 seconds later, White is honestly on his back, and he did this all night very well. Vieira did release him, and this is in 6 seconds. I know I keep speaking about, but this is a 6 second run. Like White got to the penalty spot on an overlap, and he was
But you
running
know what
about.
it is? You know what it is, Chris? Like, sorry, just really quickly. Like, I've been talking about why do I think that Ben White would be excellent for this. I was always very super comfortable with his ability to play right back because he's got incredible straight line running power and he's got incredible horizontal agility to meet markers. So that last one is a little bit more for the defensive aspect of right back. But here you can clearly see it in how you keep emphasizing this was a 6 second clip. He makes up what is it, Chris? Like 40 yards, would you say?
Probably, yeah, between the halfway line and the penalty box.
It's incredible, and that I think he's got probably one of the best straight line running powers, bar maybe Martinelli, another one that has incredible straight line running power. Shaka, ironically, like these are players, by the way, when you're starting to see how do they cover ground so quickly, it's that straight line running power. That's what you really want to look at as a coach or a scout because you use these abilities to translate roles. That's what a right back needs to do. He needs to be able to eat up 40 to 50 yards of grass very quickly and then make the clinical execution to have a nice low driven cross, something that Ben White has to an excellent variety. And I don't want to steal your thunder because he does something similar here. But to do that after the run, Chris, and then make a really smart pass selection, it's perfect. That's what you need in a right back, a full back, whatever kind of wide role you want, that touchline role needs to be able to do those things. And a certain youngster, Brooke, is perfect at that. But anyways, I'll let you continue explaining this.
Well, yeah, I was 6 seconds in, or 6 seconds from Party's pass. White makes it to the edge of the box, and he plays a. He's even further. Seven
Mm,
seconds later, he plays a first time pass, and this was first time from Vieira's pass.
yeah.
Um, Vieira passed to White here. First time White puts a nice ball into the box to Martinelli, who, our touchline left winger, is receiving on the right side of the box. And there's something about the rotations that I was speaking about earlier that they were just so consistent and so good
Mm,
that it allowed us to really mess up with probably one of the best mid blocks in the league.
yeah.
And it was good yesterday. Brentford weren't bad. That's what was surprising to me, that they weren't bad. And Martinelli passes to Tierney, who picks up in the striker role where you'd expect Jesus to be. Tierney so willing to receive. He receives with his back to the defender, pins the defender, passes to Saka, who edge of the box where you'd expect Vieira to be, takes the shot, and it was a great save.
Mm.
Great save from Raya. You can see full extension. Saka first time shot, full extension save. What did you make of this, Johnson? There
This
was so many players you could talk about in this.
Oh my god, mate! Like I don't know. I'm just gonna wax eulogy, but I'm gonna keep it short and tight because this was my second favorite part of the match. First, Ben White, the fact that he doesn't overlap, hogwash. The fact that he doesn't have a great crossing selection. I've been very vocal on Twitter. He has an excellent low-driven cross, and we see it perfectly here. He's been phenomenal at it. But also, when you look at it, you talked about the rotations, Chris, and I think it's amazing. Martinelli less amazing in this. We will find our touchline left winger striker because he does it quite a bit. Jesus was the one that was taking up his touchline role, but Kieran Tierney, I thought he didn't have the technical ability to do this. He's too stiff. It's just not possible, right? It's only Zinchenko that's able to play that role inside. But look, Saka makes the right decision. I was happy about this, by the way, that he went far post and he just released. Sometimes I think Saka thinks too much in these positions. It's not that he doesn't have a good shot or a good backlift. He does. He has all of those things. He just, I think, delays the decision making process too much on the right. And so I was just really happy with the fact that rotations are excellent. I think that Ben White again is making correct decisions about when to go. He's made, and you know what? Ironically, um, that was a piece of contention in the Amazon documentary. Like when we go back and we look at Carlos Cuesta and we look at the Ben White position in terms of he did critique, and I quote, there are specific zones that we can make the decision when to go or when not to go. And this is exactly what he's talking about, by the way. He was coaching him to be right back for a while, by the way. I don't buy this, that this is just a new thing that we're seeing out of the blue this season. It was a very calculated step. It's a very calculated progression. And I do think that this chance is all owed to Ben White. Makes up, as we said, countless times in 6 seconds, something like 60 yards. Like that's a nice little bow to what I think on this piece of play. But yeah, really good attempted finish. And then David Raya, you have to applaud. Like this is a phenomenal save. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Saka pretty much did deserve something from his shots because
Hmm.
it was not his first shot in the box. He had one in the first half that he put over the bar like very badly. But I think guys like Xhaka, Tierney deserved an assist from this. Um, Martinelli, who I think him and Vieira are the best friends, are probably our worst performers on the day. We still had a decent game. But I think the link up was just very good. I just love the confidence, man. The
Mm.
confidence to pop up in centre forward for Tierney, something he couldn't do. He wasn't reliable receiving in central areas, but it's something he's done in centre mid, in striker. Um, versus Zurich, he was in where you'd expect Martinelli to be, right on the corner of the box, almost scored. I
Mm.
think he's a lot of our players are just beating a lot of narratives, not just Tierney, but I just wanted to highlight Tierney and White here because our fullbacks are pretty much combining to nearly score, with Saka nearly scoring. But next chance, 69th minute, another defender, Mr. Aggressive. I don't know how we were so aggressive yesterday, away, especially away from home. But Ben White throwing, when he throws it in,
Mm.
one touch and just bang. Like I honestly didn't expect it, but Gabriel receives here, lets the ball travel central, and he just bangs it. And it was actually I like this. I like to do
Yeah.
the circle
Yeah.
to highlight how close it was. But It was very close.
Mm.
What did you make of this? Because I just think it highlights his aggression again because he was very aggressive yesterday. Yeah, what was
Yeah,
it?
no, it was aggressive. I think it when I lose a duel, I am upset. That is, when you talk about why they were so aggressive, I think that's the very big reason. Duels was probably the name of the game, right? It's something that Brentford do so well in terms of their spaces, and um, I think Gabriel, his intention, even though I don't think he's the best player to do it, his intent is what I love. Like that's what you need away from home, Chris. You need somebody to be aggressive and
Yeah,
willing to take those shots. Look, it's not going to go in. Maybe he needs a little bit more support, but it makes Brentford's defense worry. Look at, I think the best thing that you can do is kind of go a little bit further in terms of their entire block had to shift 5 or 10 yards. Like look over here, they're all out of position, and we've drawn them in. Make no mistake, by the way, this Ben White throw is very calculated.
yeah, because it was not sorry to cut you off, but
Mhm.
it was straight over everybody. Like
Yeah,
everybody was close in this tight circle, and it just bang, he threw it straight over everybody.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
I'm annoyed because people are going to think that this was just Gabrielle taking initiative or something. No, this was planned. They wanted to draw everybody in for a quick pop shot. Did they want Gabrielle taking the shot? Okay, maybe
no,
maybe you prefer Fabio Vieira in this position really to take the shot. But regardless, you've drawn in your entire markers, and then by the time they do take the shot, Chris, all four of them have had to crash 5 to 10 yards over to the right, and this is the second guessing that defensive line had to do all game, and it's what made them tired. That's what it did. We just moved them. We moved them at will, and that was what was so Man City-esque. Not just the inevitable portion, but we finally started to move the best mid block in the league, by the way. And I do believe it is the best, by the way. I think Brentford consistently have had the best mid block. And to do that so well, it's phenomenal, Chris. Like that is the special sauce for me that makes this performance so special.
well, we are over now, so I want to get into the next chance. But I do think that was a big chance, and it just showed a lot about our team. Like Ben White's urgency, Gabriel's urgency. I
Mhm.
wish it hit the bar or something because
Yeah.
he would have acted so emotionally and be like, "Oh my god," like stuff like
He would
that.
have
But
danced. We would have
yeah,
had our own dancing,
what
which
do you
we
think
did.
of
By
this?
the way. We had it with Jesus earlier, but
He was dancing for Vinny. He said it after. I was dancing for my boy Vinny
yeah.
after everything that's happened to him this week, and then Vinny himself danced after they scored. But what do you think of this?
Look, mate, it's just about intense. Just very, very simply, there's no reason you can't replicate this on the pitch, whether it's Brentford, whether it's a sunny day at the Emirates, whether it's anywhere else. This is just about doing all the work that you do on the pitch and just executing. In the words of Nike, just do it. I think it's about attacking with the mentality to be aggressive both on and off the ball, focusing on your duels. That's the special sauce of this team: the press, the second ball retention, and the aggressiveness. That's what I think we need in every aspect of the pitch. You need that in a North London derby. You need it up at Wolves. You need it here against Brentford. All of those things are kind of the non-negotiables of play that Mikel Arteta talks about. So, if in terms of how can we play the same style, mate, I think you do those three things. That's something that you're going to see naturally. It's going to come with it. So we just got to make sure that we're bringing that mentality to the pitch at every match, and you're going to see it a lot.
I don't think many teams stop this can stop what we do when we're this confident.
Mm.
Like what I saw yesterday was, I don't think it was our best game this season, but I think it may
No.
have been the best execution because we didn't create as much as other games. Like we were averaging 17 shots, 18 shots a game, and we had less than 18 yesterday. So it wasn't our most like potent or most attacking. But I just think the execution, the passing, the rotations were very good and very confident. Like when else does Gabriel shoot like this? Or when else does he pass like he did for the first minute? I think Party coming back was good for confidence. I think it was good for Lokonga that he didn't get like destroyed before he came out. So when he does come back in, he'll still be a bit confident because he didn't have like a Tavares taking out like, oh my god, 30 minutes and this guy's awful. We have to force Party back in from injury. Because he still took off Party in the 70th minute to bring on Lokonga so Party's still fit for our next game, which
Mm.
is something I liked. But next chance, Brentford chance, first big Brentford chance of the game because apart from a back post header from Mbeumo, where they didn't create anything till the 70th minute where this really starts from a long ball from Henry. Here you can see we're in a good settled block as well.
Mhm.
Um, Mbuemo takes a good touch from the cross, passes. I think that's Janelt. I think it is. I think it's him, but he passes to Mbuemo passes to him. He receives. He passes to Onyeka, and he takes one touch, and what a pass! I think it was a very good pass
Mm.
between Gabriel and Martinelli. Wow, that sounds crazy. Between Gabriel and Martinelli, he was between Gabriel and Martinelli, and you can see the run peeling off the back of Party straight after the save. By the way, Party's taken off.
Yeah.
I knew he was getting tired. So, what did you make of this? Because I'll show the shot. It was a shot saved by Ramsdale. But what did you make of this? Because I think this is pretty much just this.
It's that. It's exactly, and you highlight the exact person whose fault it is. Look, and ironically, look, Saliba is in the moment, and this is just because of a still frame, caught flat-footed here. Like
Yeah,
he does
by
have to be a
Mbuemo.
little bit, but he makes a really good recovery into it. It's Partey. He's ball watching here, and I know the screenshots are never something that you want to critique, but also when you look at it, he's not aggressive to making the run. Like he doesn't see it, and he sees it in the next screenshot. He kind of makes a mistake, um, and he realizes his mistake, trying to kind of get back, but he's on the wrong side of goal here. Like he's totally off, right, Chris? Like
Mm.
it's not just in terms of recognizing the run, but he's on the wrong side of
There's
goal.
nothing he could do to affect, apart from bring him down.
Yeah,
At this point, because he let him go, there's nothing he can do to affect it. So it's essentially a 1v1. And Ramsdale does well to close the angle, but Party didn't help Ramsdale or Gabriel at all.
but one thing, Chris, I do want to say is Ramsdale hasn't been good near post, by the way. So I was very happy to see this. This is actually something, ironically, he struggled with in the past. James Madison's goal, for example, not too dissimilar in terms of position, maybe a couple yards out, but Ramsdale should have saved that. Here, I was happy to see stand strong in his near post. And like you said, Mikel takes him off right after this because I think it's just somebody that's let his marker go. And that's fine. It's a poor bit of play there, but we had really good spacing in this block, to be honest with you. And if we had somebody tracking that runner a little bit more diligently, I'd say there's nothing defensively worrying about this situation. Brentford are going to do it, and it was a great pass. You do have to applaud it. The pass, it was a great
It
pass.
was.
And of course, Partey makes the mistake, but Ramsdale saves him. He stands strong near post, and that's something he hasn't done all season. So fair play.
And the last real big chance, well, they had their header from Tony in the 90th minute, which
Yeah.
didn't do anything. But our last big chance was the only chance really that we created without build up. And it was
Mm.
arguably the best pressing forward in the league right now, Gabriel Jesus. So here, it is a 2v1. He's not in possession, by the way. He's not in possession. This was a loose touch from the right back. That's Hickey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Loose touch from Hickey. Jesus pounces. You can see clean tackle, nicks it off of him. And then here, he's fine. What from here? So he takes the shot here that's saved. What did you think of this? Because it was a good save from Raya and then cleared. What did you make of this chance from?
Here, I'm much less upset that he didn't cross before. Bukayo Saka was clear. I was upset. Here, I'm okay. Everybody's covered. You can't do a cutback. That maybe a left foot cross Saka there is potentially there, but that's so tight, Chris, like in terms of
Yeah,
the spaces. So I'm okay with him taking the shot. I just need it to be a little bit more firm and again far post. Like Thierry made that finish look easy. So I think every time that when we look at it, we're kind of fans, and as usual, we're just used to players in that position at Arsenal Football Club finishing, right? Like we're just so lucky, but it's an
yeah,
incredibly hard
yeah.
finish. I think he works the keeper. I'm happy with it. The only thing I wanted to say is just to make people laugh. Look how similar Aaron Hickey looks to Kieran Tierney in terms of
Oh
how
my
like look at his shape. Like even just the way here, I don't know if it's something about Scottish players in terms of how they run,
God.
but they run the exact same thing. Um, but no, it's a good decision. I'm happy that he shot. And it would be super clinical to finish from that position. So I've got nothing big to critique there.
And then they had the cross, well not cross, but they had a free kick in like the 91st minute.
Mm.
And then the biggest
The
what
biggest
stole
moment
the
in the
headline,
match. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
biggest moment and why the title says Arsenal break records again. Two records we broke. One, just the least shots Brentford have had in a game since being back in the Prem. The second least was against us as well when we beat them 2-1. They had 6. But this time they had 5, 2 in the first half, 3 in the second. And then the headline. Ethan
Mhm.
Nwaneri coming on 91st minute. Youngest players coming in the Premier League by a
History.
mile. By a
Yeah.
mile. A year younger than Fabregas. Many months younger than, what's his name? Harvey Elliott for Fulham. What do you make of this? Because we spoke about him, and I know you want to speak about it more, but we did
Mm.
speak about him in our youth pod. We spoke about him for a little while. He's been in under 18 since he was 14. He's been in England under 16 since he was 13.
Yeah.
What did you make of him? Because he has been fast tracked. He's been in first team training for a couple of weeks now, actually. Um, what did you make of this? Because he will be in the 21 soon.
Oh, well, not soon, like, he has been,
Yeah, he has, yeah.
yeah,
But he
like,
will be like starting every
yeah,
game.
yeah, he'll be a regular, yeah, 100%, and look, again, the narcissism pat on the back from all the boys here at BoP, like, yes, if you were, fans of BoP, you've heard of Ethan Nwaneri because he was in our academy pod. He's just a player that's incredible. Look, he did nothing in his debut, okay?
He didn't
But
touch the ball.
yeah, he did. He really no. He had like one challenge on the far right, and that was it. Where's that the Freddie Youngberg gif where he just walks on the grass, touches it, and comes back? Like, sure, like you can make all the jokes you want there, but this is all about narrative. This is all about showing a platform for youth development, and this is also a way to kind of ensure that your top talents are stayed within and you retain your talent. And then the fact that like a 15-year-old by such a country mile has done it. By the way, this was so planned by Mikel. As soon as Martin Odegaard had an injury, there was only one man that was going to be called up, and it was phenomenal to see him get his minutes. I was going to be livid if we didn't because I wanted the same thing. I don't care if it's 30 seconds, just get him on the
Yeah, well,
pitch.
I was speaking
The
with
narrative.
someone in there because you weren't active before the game for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, but I was speaking to someone before the game saying, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" And we didn't see nothing about his talent. We didn't see what position he plays. He's played right in the mid, left in the middle, DM. He's like deep line playmaker, very good ball carrier. But we saw none of that. Like we didn't need to
Mm,
see any of it. We just had to see him. Like literally,
yeah.
this was literally just to see him come on the pitch, 15 years old and what 180 days or something. Um, he steps up on the pitch, youngest player by far. It would take a long time for someone to break this, and it's what Pep did for Foden. Many people have done for Wenger did for Cesc when he was 16,
Mm.
and Cesc changed the way Wenger viewed football. Still hate him for that, by the way. But like youngsters deserve a chance. So when you do this, you do a lot for them. But I hope like it's not like another youngster where you go, oh, what was he doing five? What is he doing 5 years later?
You
Hopefully,
know, but
hopefully it's a great
you
one.
know what, mate? Look, Ethan Nwaneri, he's been fast tracked in the England setup as well. Like he's a special talent. Look, I'll
Yeah.
do it a little bit. I'd encourage everyone to go back, check our Hail Youth End pod. I won't go too long, but look, this is a
Hell, youth
left-footed.
Endwood.
Yeah, I know. I'm great with words. But I would check out that pod. We discussed the Hail Youth End, and it was at the end of the pod where we talked about Nwaneri. That's why that kind of phrase came out. But look, he's a left-footed attacking midfielder. He's phenomenal. He's got incredible physique and frame. You can already tell. Like that kid does not look 15. And it's because he also uses it in a way that he's devastating. He is a special talent. He's one of those interiors. You know who I compare him to, Chris, is Jamal Musiala. That was at Chelsea.
The ball carrying is similar, and it is big praise because Musiala is probably
One
the
of the
best
best
under.
youth
He's
had.
probably the best under 20 player in the world right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's one of my favorite, at least, and so I really, really love it. And look, in terms of Nwaneri, I think he's okay. Musiala is a little bit more explosive. I will say. I,
Yeah,
I think that Nwaneri's a lot more tempo controlled, but I do think that Nwaneri has a much better pass selection than Musiala. Uh, and he's more willing to make that pass. He's got an excellent outside of the boot pass as well. He's just very creative. And he is a special talent. He's somebody that I think has the physicality to match. He doesn't get bullied off the ball. He actually bullies on the ball. That's something that I love to see in somebody who is just 15. It's phenomenal, and it sends a message. And there's not just him. There's Miles Lewis Skelly, who we also talked about, another 15-year-old that is going to be fast tracked. He's a little bit more all action box to box kind of midfielder, but this this sends a message, right, Chris? Like when you give a debut, how many debuts have we given in even just the last like 18 months for players under the age of 19? Like it's incredible. Like when you do look at it, Patino has had his debut. Nwaneri has had his debut.
yeah.
Like you're starting to look at it, and I think it's a very purpose move by the club to basically show their talents. Listen, if you stay, you will get a chance, and not even just chances. You will be a force within the team, and we've shown it. We have probably the best youth record, in my opinion, in the league right now in terms of what we're bringing through and how consistent we are. Um, in terms of can he play in the Europa? Can he? For sure. I don't know if he
No,
will.
he can't. He can't because he has to be 16.
Registration wise, he can't.
Oh, but
Like,
you're
he
talking about
physically can't
quality. Yeah.
enter. Could he play in the Europa League? For sure. There's nothing, yeah, I know. I do got to be careful when you start talking about talents. People get annoyed, but it's just his ball style, so people can get a reference. His ball carrying is very similar, just a little bit less explosive and a little bit more range. But yeah, he can't play in the Europa just because of registration wise. He's too young.
Yeah,
Um, but um,
really.
but he could, level wise. Like, if you're asking me, does he have the talent and the capability to play at 15 years of age with men? Yes, like, he is ready. I
Do you
don't
know?
have.
Do you know one thing that annoyed me though about the commentators? They were saying
Mm.
they shouldn't be putting this 15-year-old on the pitch with men.
Yeah,
Careless of Arsenal to do that. Almost like Harvey Elliott was 16 and a month. Like
yeah.
he was 16 and a month. He was still a baby when he played for Wolves, but there were actually not many players who come on this young have
Mm.
really succeeded. Really, what Cesc, um, Milner, and Rooney are
Yeah,
the
wow,
the
what a
main
list,
ones.
eh? There
The
one
main
of
ones.
these things is not like the other on that
They,
list, but,
obviously, I said Milner on purpose, but apart from that, like not many who are this young succeed. But hopefully, he's one of them. He is very talented, and he's been under 16 England for 2 years now. He's been under
on the
18s Arsenal.
U18s too, Chris.
Yeah, under 18s Arsenal since he was 13 as well. So he's been fast tracked for a long time. Obviously, there's other players who we could have brought on, we should have brought on as well, like
Mm.
Koji Dewberry, Charles Saja Jr. They should have at least seen the first team already, I think. But there's so much he can't do. He hasn't done his GCSEs yet. He hasn't done his exams yet. But yeah, I think that was a great showing. What did you make of the game? Because overall, what's your overall final thoughts, positives
Yeah.
and negatives?
Yeah, look, overall, again, when I lose a duel, I am upset, and that was very, very evident. I think Duel's aggression on and off the ball was phenomenal all throughout the game. My MVP of the match is going to be Granit Xhaka. He was everywhere. I hope you guys saw in the pod, like, it wasn't even just the goals and the assist. Like, he was everywhere. He was at the heart of everything good that we did. I agree with you. I think Fabio Vieira, ironically, had probably one of the more poorer games of the night, despite his goal. There's a lot more to come there. I'm not worried. I think he was very safe. That's what I will say in possession. It was very clear he was nervous for his first start. He isn't this control oriented normally. He really did play the Odegaard role quite well. Fabio Vieira is a lot more aggressive with his passing, and you see it for the goal, but you will see it in open play a lot more. So he was a little bit poor. And I think Martinelli was a little bit poor. And again, this is being super critical because I think everybody to a T played phenomenally. I think in true SofaScore fashion, I don't know if anybody had below a 7 on the
Yeah.
team sheet, really. So it's very critical. So I don't know. I feel bad criticizing anybody. It was just a phenomenal performance, inevitable in the Man City aspect of us executing the plan so ruthlessly. And I was just so happy with the fact that we pulled out against Brentford away, narrative wise, a nice kickabout with the boys, as Gabrielle said after the game. It was excellent, but against one of the best, if not the best, mid block in the league. So I was really, really happy about that. And I think you take away an excellent performance to approach the North London Derby, which is really the big match that everybody looks forward to. And, of course, everybody on BoP, what kind of preview we got there. We got to have some driving lessons for other people, not just, Ethan. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Poor lad. Um,
Leave him alone. Oh my god.
he may not play,
Yeah,
so
he's
he
injured.
may not play. He's got injured, so he'll be at home. Someone will
Mm.
drive for him, as he should have that night. But
But
yeah.
yeah,
So
for me, I think best team in the league this season. Man City have the best striker in the league, which is why their numbers are so skewed with like XG and
mm,
stuff. They've got the best striker and best pass in the league. But I think we've been the best team in the league for the first 7 games, 18 points. We've only lost 1 game away, which was United. Um, Dominance, very good execution, um, very good goal scoring rise. I think we've been very good attacking. I just think very good. Like that's really it for me. Very good. I liked the difference in the urgency from White and Gabriel. Not that it hasn't been there before, but it was a lot more yesterday than before. Um, I like it to continue. Obviously, we have the international break now. So our next game is the 1st of October.
Mm.
I'm annoyed that what happened last week because I was suggesting we do a 70th minute clap and continue to play, but we did it, and but they still banned the game last. Anyways, we had the 70th minute clap for the Queen. Rest in peace, the Queen. Karen's not here, so we'll say rest in peace to the Queen. But it was a good game. On to the next, really. Like
Yeah.
3-0, easy against probably one of the best defenses in the league, arguably the best, who have been very good. They're ninth in it. Another top 10 team we beat.
Mm.
People were saying, "Oh, they're playing easy games," but we beat Fulham and Brentford, who are top 10 teams, and we beat Bournemouth, who's now 12th. So
Palace.
we're doing something good. But yeah, we'll be back soon. Not about Arsenal because we don't play for 2 weeks. We'll be back. Look, he says no. Yeah, we'll be back soon about something not about Arsenal. Probably not about England either because we could not care less about these games. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow everyone here. George V underscore AFC on Twitter. At CK Football on Twitter. Follow Karen at Karen BOP on Twitter. And at BOP Footy on Twitter. As you can see below, all of our socials are there. But yeah, we'll be back soon. Peace.